Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak. This week we have ourselves a chat with Aaron McIntire, one of the producers who brings you the very popular Steve Deace Program. My chat with Aaron is next. First, let's talk about coffee, and the man this month's featured APR blend is named after, the incomparable Ronald Reagan, who, like all presidents, would receive letters in the mail from Americans who wanted to reach out and had something to ask or say to him. And many times, these Americans would actually ask for direct financial assistance from the president. And many times, Reagan would oblige by sending them personal checks. He attempted to help out poor Americans directly from his own personal checking account. I kid you not. Now, in 1986, an 11-year-old girl named Lisa wanted to help the homeless in her area, so she reached out to Reagan asking that he sponsor her in a charity event. President Reagan replied with a heartfelt note and a check for $50. As the story goes, the family kept the $50 check with the president's signature featured on it, and another $50 was sent to help out with the homeless. Now, this month, American Pride Roasters Coffee has been honoring Ronald Reagan, and in particular his A Time for Choosing speech from 1964. That speech was a wake-up call for the country, and so is this powerful micro-lot blend of Colombian beans with its sweet yet bold caramel flavor. And there are so many flavors to choose from when it comes to the American Pride Roasters Coffee collection, and I encourage you to check them all out when you head to aprcoffee.com. You can't go wrong. Don't forget to use promo code ATM at checkout. That stands for At the Mic. That promo code ATM will save you 10% off your entire purchase. That's aprcoffee.com.
You're listening to At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production.
Aaron McIntire is my guest for this week's conversation. You're probably most familiar with Aaron from his role on the Blaze TV's Steve Deace Program. Well, there's much more to Aaron than that, and we get that conversation started right now on this week's edition of At the Mic. Joined today by Aaron McIntire. You know him from the Steve Deace Program on the Blaze Radio and Television Networks. Man, thanks for making time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad we can finally sit down and chat. We've missed each other a few times, but been looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go to the beginning. You were born in Decatur County, Iowa.
Yeah.
I looked this up. It is the bottom of the state, down right at the border of Missouri. Mm-hmm. And central Iowa, down at the bottom there. And tell us about Decatur County and what we should know about this place.
You would think just driving through it, it's just another, and it is in a lot of ways, just kind of another Iowa county, very, very rural. But it is rather a fascinating place. Well, first of all, we're kind of known as, the Decatur Countyans are known as the poorest county in Iowa. So we've got that going for us. But at the same time, we've got our own, religious cult down there as well.
Oh, really? You've got one of those?
There is a cult, and I'm not talking about what I'm about to say as well. There's also one of the main universities or main headquarters for an offshoot of the Mormon Church is actually based in Lamoni, the town that I grew up in. So it was a good experience, being that, we grew up in a town with a university. And so you kind of got some outside influence that there's a kind of a bigger world out there while maintaining kind of the innocence that living and growing up in a rural space brings you. So, that's kind of the long and short of Decatur County, just kind of a strange dynamic.
Wow. So wait, you said the name of the town you grew up in, Lamoni?
Yeah, it's based on a king in the Book of Mormon called Lamoni. And as to my knowledge, there's tons of Dallas, cities named Dallas across even this country, and just basically any city. As far as I can tell, that's the only Lamoni in the entire entire world.
Yeah, so I did see
that's special.
Yeah, I did. I saw Stephen Decatur was the namesake for your county there. But I want to explore Lamoni for just a second here. What's the population like? What was it then, and what is it now?
So it's been about the same, actually. On a good day, around, I would say, 2,500. And that's when when the college is in session and season.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Very small town.
All right, very good. So you're born and raised, obviously, in the state of Iowa. Do you have this weird, I won't say it weird, do you have this inclination to despise all things Nebraska? Because it seems like, because I went to school at the University of Nebraska, and obviously there's that built-in Nebraska-Iowa rivalry just between the states. I'm not even talking about the universities and football and all that good stuff. That just kind of reminded me of the Alabama-Georgia rivalry among, and I don't know what it is. I could never get into either of them. I grew up in Georgia, and I just wondered if you hate all things Nebraska just by being born in Iowa.
You're a Nebraska fan, aren't you?
That's where I went to school.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I know a lot of people do,
Yeah.
but I never really have. I grew up watching Iowa State playing Nebraska when they were still in the Big 12. And I'd always cheer for Iowa State, but I don't really have this built-in animosity.
All right.
I will say, though, in the last 5 or 6 years after your former athletic director, I think it was Sean Eichhorst.
Yes.
I think he fired Bo Pelini after they beat Iowa.
Yeah, that was
and said we need to take stock of where Iowa is as a program.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, and then Iowa.
I don't want to.
So that's the only sore spot I really have with Nebraska.
Okay, I got you. Okay, alrighty. So I ask in that email that I send before we do these interviews. I ask, what's the biggest turning point in your life? And I want to visit this because interesting answer here. Your first hourly wage job at a fast food joint. Yeah. I'm intrigued. How'd that turn out?
I was the youngest person in my family growing up, and so that meant I got away with a lot of stuff, and so that made me pretty lazy. But when I didn't realize how lazy I actually was, but I was lazy.
At least you admit it, man.
No, I was totally lazy, and I got away with it because I was the youngest person in the family.
Okay.
And when you get older, there are things that you want to buy, and my parents were good parents, so they didn't just buy them for me. And I realized the only way I'm going to be able to buy things or do things is if I get a job. So I got a job at this place called Maid-Rite. It's spelled Maidrite. Okay. It's a really weird Iowa. I want to call it's called a tradition, but it's more like a fluke than anything. It's just this. they serve these disgusting loose meat sandwiches. They're like sloppy joes without the slop.
Oh no!
And so I worked there at Maid-Rite in Lamoni, and that really opened my eyes, and I think it gave me some dignity as well as jobs do for anybody, and also helped me realize, hey, I'm in here like 8 hours a week, and this sucks. This sucks. My dad has to go and work at the Hormel factory for 40 plus hours a week, inside freezing conditions every single night. And he's been doing that without real complaint my entire life. Just gave me a good perspective on things.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say that's probably one of the, outside of my salvation, obviously, and belief in Jesus Christ as my Savior.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest turning point in my life, I'd say.
So what was your path then from making these sloppy joes to where you are today? Everyone knows you on the Steve Deace Program.
Yeah, so I always had an interest in broadcasting when I was a really little kid, like 7 or 8 years old. I wanted to be a meteorologist because I always say it was kind of like my Batman thing. He was afraid of bats. I was afraid of bad weather. And, living in Iowa, that's not exactly a great thing, but it fascinated me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a meteorologist. And I started listening to talk radio a lot when I was in high school and decided, this might actually be what I would rather do is talk radio and radio in general. So I started listening to, I had been listening to this Christian radio station, had it on sometimes, and I knew that they were affiliated with a private Christian school up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And so I investigated them, and they had excellent facilities. I thought I'd have some opportunities to network there. Sure enough, I did. While I was at school there, I also got to meet through my brother-in-law. I actually knew him, Steve, who I work for now, obviously. and kind of maintained that relationship a little bit through college and out of college, getting my first job in the Twin Cities. And so that's kind of the long and short of how I got from, making these gross sloppy Joe type things to working for Steve.
Yeah. So explain to people, because I know that they want to know, as fans of yours, they see you sitting at all that technical stuff. Mm-hmm. What is it that, can you walk us through a typical day for you? Because I know there's a lot of technical stuff involved. I'm sure that you put together the while we were away stuff on your own, I would imagine. Tell us about your day.
Yeah, so typical day. So it used to be before I had my son last year, I would actually
congratulations,
get in.
By the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. I would get in around 7 o'clock in the morning, Central Time every morning, and just start working on the montage or whatever it is that Steve needs for, production or graphics or anything like that. Anymore, though, just because of taking care of him, we moved about a half an hour away. I do a lot of my prep for what happened while we were away the night before, so I at least have some idea what I'm doing when I get in. So I get in about 8 o'clock now, around 8, try to get in around 8, start writing the montage. That's what takes the most amount of time. That takes me between an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes even more, depending on how much I've done the night before. Once I have that all written out and in some sort of cohesive framework, then I just gather all the clips and screenshots and things like that. And the rest of the process only takes half an hour, 45 minutes. So then the show happens. I start pushing buttons, literally, metaphorically. Sometimes I try to push Steve's buttons too.
You do so well too.
Show is over and everything, as you know, working for Pat, the show gets up as soon as we possibly can. I know a lot of listeners get frustrated sometimes. Fortunately, we just got dude, and you will appreciate this as well. We just got the Blaze just sent us a brand new render computer, just
nice.
designated to rendering the show.
Oh, cool!
And man, that thing is faster than I've ever seen a computer go. So that's really cool. So that's helped some things. So that's a really 10,000 foot view. I do everything but host and book the show, which are two big jobs, obviously. But most cliches are rooted in a grain of truth. Even though I hate cliches, and I really am a jack of all trades, master of none type of person. I mean, I could find myself doing chroma keying one day, or trying to troubleshoot, some random box that we have, or setting up a server. I just, whatever the job requires, I try to learn or force myself to learn how to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that this is true. If it's not, then stop me here. But I would imagine that while even when you're engaged in a conversation with the guys on the show, your brain is doing something else, or you're communicating some other way through, a computer or something like that with some other people. So you're not just sitting there for the entirety of the show having this conversation. Maybe that is what's happening, but I gather not, just based on my own experience, that I'm totally engaged, sure, but I might be talking to somebody in the TV room or in the radio room, or chatting with someone online that's got some issue with the show going on.
Yeah, no, and you would know better than most that your full attention isn't on the topic at hand all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Just enough of it to make you sound. That was the really nerve-wracking part about being down in Dallas a few weeks ago. Is that I didn't have all that stuff to do, actually, and so there was no excuse for me to sound like a dummy. Because now, if I say something really stupid, I can just chalk it up to
I was working on
I've got 5 other things I'm working on over here, excuse me.
Yeah.
When really I was just, sitting on Twitter and, doing something totally unrelated to my job. So.
Yeah, 99% of the time, actually 99.99% of the time, I hear exactly what Pat says. And then, of course, there's that just little bit where maybe I missed a detail and end up repeating what he just said, or I say something that's already been said by Jeffy or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to keep the show on the air. Please forgive me. But let's see here. Okay, tell us about your wife, Bella. You've been married for 2.5 years. You guys have a beautiful child, Ben.
Yep.
First of all, where did you and Bella meet?
We met on a dating app called Tinder. I'm just kidding. On a dating...
I was going to go with it, man.
On a dating app called Hinge or Hinged. And
that's come up.
Yeah, met in person, probably about a week or so after meeting online, and just really hit it off.
Des Moines.
Yep,
right?
Yep. She grew up here in Des Moines and came back here from college and has a job as a nurse, and so we hit it off. Really short dating period and
you just knew
engagement. Yeah, we just knew.
That's great.
And just what's the point in waiting? So we got married back in December of 2019, and she's a very, very awesome person. Just beautiful for one thing, but very capable individual, but also really fun as well. I always tease her. The moment I knew that she was not only just a sweet Bella nurse at a local hospital here, one of the biggest hospitals here, I climbed into her car one time and I saw a fuzzbuster, like a radar detector, and I'm like, wow. This girl's got a little bit of gangster in her as well.
Nice, so that's awesome.
Yeah, she's very cool. She currently works actually overnight as a labor and delivery nurse at Iowa Methodist West Hospital here in Des Moines, but she enjoys that. She has previously worked in kind of administration as well. Okay. But she's awesome as she is as a nurse and wife. She's even better as a mama too. So she takes care of Ben, and Ben tries to push her buttons with increasing frequency now that he's 1 year old. But he's a little goober as well.
That's love
that
cool.
dude.
You know, when you hear people make references to time, such as for me, it used to be before 9/11, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And now it's before COVID. My goodness, you guys got in right under the gun as far as getting married, and your life started before the world just collapsed in on itself.
Yeah, I'm an introvert, and, people who have listened to the show can probably tell as well that I like my kind of downtime, away from people time, but even I'm not sure how I would have responded to COVID, just with everything being shut down. I don't mean to sound melodramatic at all.
No, man, I got it.
It was just an obscene blessing that we were able to start our lives together, and I think providential in some respects for both of us. I think she would say the same thing for her as well, that we were able to start our life together just literally a few months before that all went down.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got a couple of hobbies that you point out here. A lot of people are getting into this. If I had any kind of talent with cooking whatsoever, I would absolutely be doing this. Smoking meat. My goodness, man, that's got to be fun, right? You just experiment with stuff?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I find myself actually going back to the tried and true that I know I'm good at. I did do my first brisket a few weeks ago, and it was not inedible, but it was not as juicy as I was thinking. And a lot of people that I've talked to as well will say that with their first brisket as well. But I love doing pork. Pork is my favorite thing to smoke. Especially pork butts, because it's relatively inexpensive. You get a lot of really, really good tasting meat out of that. So it's a lot of fun to experiment. I just did some whole chickens a couple of weeks ago. That was good. Done ribs several times. Those are always good as well. Don't take nearly as long as a pork butt or larger cuts of meat, but that's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I will say another hobby of yours. You and I are of like mind as far as sports betting goes.
Really?
Yeah, I would say that like my biggest payoff, maybe it was like a $10 3 or 4 team college parlay or something that turned into a few $100, right?
Yep.
But my best story, and I've told this on Pat's show, I'm pretty sure I've told it here on At the Mic at some point. It still hurts to this day. So I'm in Las Vegas, and I put a $5 bet on a 13-team parlay. And I remember it being just winners. There's no point spreads involved. I tell this to
just
people.
Money line?
Yeah, they don't even believe me. So anyhow, I'm like, it was just straight up. And so, unfortunately, and I say it like this because of the way it turned out, unfortunately, I hit the first 11. So if you get all 13, Aaron, you get $32,000.
Yeah. That's a life-changing amount of money.
Especially considering it was Labor Day weekend 2001, as a matter of fact. So I would have been 25 years old.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it would have been absolutely. So $32,000 is on the line. I'm at my stepbrother's wedding rehearsal. So the last two games are going on. It was UCLA, Alabama, Colorado, and Colorado State. And I'm not sitting in there where all the dinner is and all the good. I'm out there standing in the hall watching these games come down to the wire. And of course, I blew them both.
Sweating.
Yeah. And so the $32,000 becomes $320, becomes $32. I won $32 instead of the $32,000. So there you go.
Oh man.
How about you, man? What is you?
That is brutal.
It was very brutal.
You I don't know. If you get into degeneracy sometimes a little bit, you just have to mentally put like a nut cup on, just because you are going to get kicked in the groin over and over and over again.
Said, yeah.
I would say I've had several really nice payouts, like over 100 to 100. And I think one that I did last year was 141 to 1, and a parlay that I bet. And the way I do it too, I bet on each leg. Games I'm really confident in. And so even if I don't hit the parlay, if I hit more than the number of legs plus one, then I'm still making money, or still at least living to see the next day. But last college basketball season, I did have a parlay. I think it was like a 12-team parlay or something like that. That would have paid out like $18,000, and I missed it by one leg. Now, it wasn't even close. So that makes it a little bit better. So, I'm over 160 points, and there's like 4 minutes left in the game, and they're at 145. I'm like, I get it. It wasn't like that.
Yeah,
it wasn't even close. But yeah, you really have to hate losing, but you really can't get emotional after you do, because that's when you get into trouble. But it's a lot of fun. My favorite leagues to bet are soccer, college basketball, and college football, in that order, just because the first two, there are so many soccer leagues out there. It's hard for Vegas. It's hard for the odds makers to get a hard line. Same with college basketball as well.
Yeah. And that's just it, man. When you get the first 11 right, I remember that the Colorado State game, I don't remember it being close, but I was still holding on for that 320. And then there was like an onside kick with UCLA and Alabama that didn't go my way, and then I was just angry. But we keep coming back for more because we get so close to that, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, have you ever spent time talking with Stu here in Dallas? Because he is also into sports wagering, but his brain is much wiser than mine when it comes to figuring out how to cover yourself and make, an extra bet, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
sure.
I can't, my brain doesn't do that.
Yeah, no, I have not. I didn't know Stu. Boy, there's, degenerates everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
We are. On Blaze TV.
We are collected here.
No, I've not talked to him, but no, I've done the arbitrage thing. If you do that too much, the books will kick you out and not let you bet anymore. But I've done that a couple of times. Yeah, arbitrage is a systematic. I guess that's maybe a little bit more. I guess that's overkill. Hedging your bets, though.
Yeah, that's what he does. That's what he does. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Hedging his bet, and like for example, every year before the NFL season starts, Aaron, I put $10 on the Falcons that I know will be burned. I knew it was going to be burned when they were up 28-3. I just know. Right. I just do it because if I do want the Falcons to win the Super Bowl, it'll be the year that I won't put some money on them, right?
Exactly.
So, but I also put money on teams that I think are decent teams, but still long shots, because I'm obviously an addict. No, so I put $10. No, I put 40. I forget what I put. I put 30 or 40 bucks on the Bengals last year to win the Super Bowl.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's as close as I've ever been by far. Normally it's the Lions or the Browns or something stupid. This year, by the way, the secret sauce is going to be the New York Jets.
Really?
Just so you know.
Wow.
Anyway, so
that's crazy.
Yeah. So okay. So the Bengals, right? All right. And so it's Super Bowl week, and I'm talking with Stu, and he's telling me how to hedge this bet, how much I should put on the Rams to cover. Of course, I didn't, and of course, I lost it. But again, I have this story that I get to share with you of being so close. I don't have that big, awesome story because I suck. All right. So.
That's the way it goes. I mean, it's exhilarating and frustrating all at the same time, and that's why people keep doing it.
Yeah,
that's why the odds makers in Las Vegas have those gigantic buildings on the strip out there, and we do not.
There's a reason why the casino is so big and beautiful, guys. Yep. Oh my goodness! But it's like golf. It's just like golf. We could play 18 holes, and if we had one incredible approach on one random hole, that shot is what we're going to remember and bring us back for more. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
Exactly.
So we are degenerates, but we do have a respect for C.S. Lewis. And I have also read Screw Tape Letters, which you list as your favorite book that you've read. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The way you describe it in the email, I mean, it gets inside your head and it's very creepy. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, no, and I think that's effective when talking about the spiritual world as well. Not to caricature it, not to overblow it, as he says, as one of the more famous lines from that book, but to be aware of it, to the point where you believe that it's right over your shoulder. That's kind of the most, and Frank Peretti piercing the darkness, or This Present Darkness. I don't know if you've read those books as well. Does the same thing. Shameless plug for my boss as well. His new movie based on Nefarious Plot, his book, which is a modern ode to the Screw Tape Letters. I've read the script for that, and it does the exact same thing. And you get a really, really creeped out feeling when you read some of these texts.
Do we have an anticipated release date for A Nefarious Plot as a movie?
I'm not the guy to ask that, but I will tell you no.
Okay. All right. Very good.
But I think they have an idea when they would like to, but no projected.
Understood. Yeah. Okay. So along that lines of Screw Tape Letters and the creepiness of spiritual warfare in our midst, tell us about the most scared that you've been, and I mean. You got to understand, you're talking to a Toyota guy, okay?
Yep.
Like, I've gone back and forth between Toyota and Honda.
Yep.
And right now, I'm upset with Honda, so I'm strictly Toyota right now. However, I'm just a little concerned that what you're about to tell me about, you said it's a tie between two different driving experiences with two different Toyotas.
Yeah.
Oh, no, what happened, man?
So I had a 95 Toyota Camry when I was in college. I bought it off my aunt and uncle and loved that car. And my scary experience isn't actually the two different times that the brake lines just gave out in the middle of traffic in Minneapolis.
What?
Those two times, those were scary, but they didn't scare me the way these other two experiences did.
Okay.
So that's one thing. I was heading back up to college up in the Twin Cities after visiting my family back in southern Iowa. Just so stupid. I mean, it's so stupid in retrospect, but I didn't think it was snowing that badly. This was after Christmas break. I didn't think it was snowing that badly. So I kept the cruise control on. I was passing through Owatonna, Minnesota, and I just lost control, man. I started fishtailing all over the road, couldn't get it back under control, ended up in the ditch, and I'm like, wow, I'm lucky that I'm actually alive right now. I'm not getting back tonight, though. Dude, I got pulled out of the ditch in an hour and got back on the road and made it home that night. Man, I mean, your life really does flash before your eyes in those scenarios. Another one, and the only reason I've never told this story publicly at all, because my mom listens to the Steve Deace show.
Oh, don't tell her.
And this happened in her car not too long ago.
But don't tell her about At the Mic.
I'm not going to tell. I hope she doesn't.
Nobody better tell your mom about this interview then.
What is the statute of limitations for when you can tell your parents thing? Because
I've been there. I don't know. I've actually, I did it recently. I'm 46 years old, and it wasn't within the last year. I told my mom about, you remember how you guys said I was going to have to pay for my insurance if I got 2 speeding tickets? Yeah, well, you know how I got the one, literally outside of the neighborhood in Scottsbluff, Nebraska on my way to Lincoln? Okay, so you know about that one. Yeah, you don't know about the one 3 months later because I was able to do this deferral thing. Yeah, the cop was incredibly cool in that, boys and girls, look, you got a girl in the car, you're driving on the interstate from Scottsbluff, Nebraska to Lincoln, Nebraska in the middle of nowhere. You're going to go 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
You're just going to do it in your 87 Honda Accord. and I got pulled over in Keith County, ironically, and the cop goes, and I will remember that New Year's Day by U2 was playing very loudly, and so anyhow, he pulls me over. And he's like, I'm going to write the ticket for 85. You obviously know you were going much faster than that. And I was like, yes, sir. And then he go, by the way, kids, it was a 55 mile. See, it used to be 55 back in the day. Ugh.
Yep. Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to write it at 85 because if it's within 30 from the speed limit, you can just, take a test and it won't go on your insurance and all this stuff. So I ended up taking this stupid test like, what color's a stop sign? Anyway. So you pay $300 to Keith County, Nebraska, and your parents never find out about it until, 25, 30 years later.
Right.
And that's how that went. But anyway, I'm so sorry to derail this. I want to hear what your mom better not hear.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. No, it was like, I remember in high school, along those lines as well. In high school, I was on my way to football practice one morning, still waking up. I go around this blind turn, and I must have fallen asleep or something because I look up out of my dad's pickup that I was using, that he let me use. I look up, and there's this mailbox, somebody's mailbox just flying in the air that I had just hit.
No.
And so I did the responsible thing and went in and told them and gave them my information, and then continued on to practice, for which I was late, and then I had to run sprints afterwards and all of that. But I didn't tell them till probably 6 years later that had actually happened. Didn't leave a mark on the. But anyway, yeah, those statute of limitations.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is for parents, but anyway, a few years ago, this was back in 2019.
Oh boy.
My third car after the Camry. So after the Camry, I got a Mini Cooper. The Mini Cooper went kaput after one winter of being kept outside. And so I got a Subaru Outback.
Okay.
One morning I woke up. I could not find my keys to my Subaru Outback. My main keys. And so I was like, okay, whatever. They must have just disappeared somewhere. I don't know. So I got my backup pair. Didn't think of anything of it. 2 days later, go outside, my Subaru's gone. It had been stolen.
No.
And so that's a long story. They found it, U.S. Marshals found it like 10 days later, and I got it all cleaned up, insurance paid for all of that. But in the meantime, my mom was nice enough to let me use her Toyota Corolla, and she had been complaining about the brakes being a little sticky and a little weird. And a lot of times for cars that old, I think this one was maybe 93, something like that. A lot of times, you want to take a look at the master cylinder. And so I decided, just as a surprise for my mom, I looked up how to do it. I'm like, I could do that. Those Toyotas are so easy to work on. If it was any newer than that, I probably wouldn't have. But I decided to replace the master cylinder for her. And I got that popped off. The old one popped off. The new one popped on. I had a heck of a time flushing the brake system, though. And so I just decided, okay, tomorrow it's got a little bit of breakage, and if, I've done this before with my old Toyota, I've done this before, I'll just use the emergency brake. I'll use that to help to stop because that worked so well before. And it did when my old one. So I unwisely got up one morning, started driving the Corolla just through suburban Des Moines. It was a little bit rainy. I start going down this hill. I step on the brakes. It would not stop. So I start applying the emergency brake. And guess what, Keith?
No.
The emergency brake is only on one side. So what do I do in slick conditions? I did 2 360-degree spins in traffic. Didn't hit anybody. Ended up in the middle of the intersection. Dude, I ended up actually, I think one 360 and then another 180 because I ended up in pointing the opposite direction that I was. And like nothing happened. I just put the car back in park and started driving back towards my apartment. But my life, again, flashed before me. So those are the two most scared moments that I have
goodness.
been in. Yeah.
Your mom is not on social media, correct?
She's on Facebook.
Okay, that's
She's
fine. I'm not on Facebook.
Yeah,
no, this will only be promoted on Twitter, so don't worry. I'm just making sure. I'm looking out for you, man.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think our bases are covered as long as somebody doesn't tattletale on you.
Yeah, that better not happen.
Yeah, or we're coming for y'all, whoever does that. Okay, man, that is rough. Now, Okay, so that obviously had to be embarrassing, at least right there in the intersection with all the people looking at you and all that good stuff. So, see, this is a lame attempt at a segue into your most embarrassing moment, which you couple with interesting talents that you have. So, because you say these kind of go together and both have to do with escapades playing the violin. That's cool, man. You could play the violin, huh?
Yeah.
Right on.
I really thought in high school, and I thought I was pretty good, and I was decent. I was better than most. But even after I was like not playing violin anymore, I was like, high school were my glory days with the violin. I was actually really good back then. And then this last year we were moving, and I found some old recordings of myself in high school, and I was not as good as I thought I was.
I swear, every recording you find of yourself doing fill in the blank, if you're anything like me, is like, oh, I don't remember it like that.
Yeah, so I don't remember. So when I filled this out, I don't remember what I don't remember what one is. I will say I've played my violin at a Unitarian church just because the price was good. It was really creepy. I've also played the aforementioned cult in Decatur County.
Oh, wow.
I went and played out there just as a favor for one of the teachers at school. I'll just leave that there. That was really weird. But the most embarrassed I've ever been, and you would think going into broadcasting there are ample opportunities to speak for in terms of embarrassment.
Yeah.
You would think that, but the most embarrassed I've ever been was actually in a rehearsal. And the small university in my hometown, I played actually in their orchestra one season, 1 year, because they would allow high schoolers to do that if they were good enough. We were doing Handel's Messiah and the Hallelujah chorus. And if you're a music guy or you can kind of understand music, the first violin part goes D, A, B sharp, A. So hallelujah. That's the part.
Got it.
I did D, A, B flat, A, and man, it stuck out like a sore thumb. The director looked right at me and said, "Let's do this over again." Again, this is a rehearsal, but that is the most embarrassment I have felt in a singular moment.
Because
ever.
You're probably thinking to yourself, they think I don't belong here now. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, my gosh, I can understand. You mentioned playing football earlier. Was that back in high school then that you played?
Yeah.
Okay. What position did you play, man?
So we played 8-man.
Yeah, love it.
8-man football.
Yeah.
And I played tight end my entire career. And then I played safety my first 3 years, and then linebacker on defense. So every player played both ways, and we were pretty good my junior year. That was about the best that best success I've ever experienced. We went to the playoffs. We ended up being the only loss to the team that went on to win state, I should say. And so that was a fun experience that year. We were terrible my senior year, though.
Oh, man. No, okay, so since you basically played Iron Man, did you prefer offense or defense? Because if I ever played football, I would want to be tackling people, hitting people hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I always looked forward to the opportunity to catch touchdowns, and I only had a few touchdowns and a lot of, 2-point conversions in my time. But defense was definitely my favorite, just because of that's why you play football.
That's why you play football.
That's why you play football.
To hit people and get away with it. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I love this. And your Amazon cart currently is an electric pressure washer and Thompson's water seal. Can I just real quickly say, if anybody has a leak in their house, and this was news to me when this happened to me, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, the paint on Christmas morning was bubbling above the piano in our nice room. And anyway, you trace it back, it wasn't the shingles, it wasn't the window, it was the rock. And so there's this rock face on this one area of my house, and so every 6 months I have to go up there and spray this clear Thompson water seal, or else it leaks in there when a driving rain arrives. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that may be struggling with a weird leak in their house. It could be the rock. It could be a rock.
Yeah. No, it's strange. I got the pressure washer with the idea that I'll use it a lot, and I have actually. I've had it now for most of the summer. I've used it quite a bit. The main project I've used it on so far is pressure washing our deck, and then the Thompson's water seal, obviously for going over the deck.
Well,
so that's a really exciting story about what was in my my Amazon cart at one point.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. Yeah, your Amazon cart there. Yeah, I tell you, man, there's no fun adulting. It's not fun. I'll say that, because our Amazon cart isn't a bunch of fun stuff. It's practical stuff.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, I know people should follow you on your Twitter account, Deace Producer, Deace, Deace Producer. You're the man that gets Steve Deace on the air for Blaze Radio and Television. I appreciate you making time here. I'm sorry we didn't cross paths when you were in Dallas. Of course, the one time that you guys came down here, I was out of town. So my apologies for that. I screwed that up. But thanks for joining me remotely from Des Moines. Aaron McIntire, anything that we need to cover here that we haven't?
I don't believe so. This was a lot of fun. Thanks. I'm glad we were finally able to connect. It's been fun chatting with you. I did not know that there were so many degenerates, I should say, at the Blaze, and so I'm looking forward to reconnecting on that topic, especially in the near future.
Absolutely. All right, man. Aaron McIntire, Steve Deace Program, joining me here for At the Mic. Thanks so much, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith. Have a good one.
Man, it was such a pleasure getting to better know Aaron. Such a nice guy to talk with. And if you weren't familiar with him before today's chat, you should go and familiarize yourself with him and the show that he produces. That's the Steve Deace Program, DEACE. It's available on Blaze TV. And in fact, it's available wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. So how convenient is that? And, since you're done with today's episode of At the Mic, I give you permission to go and listen to Steve Deace and the crew right now, where you will hear Aaron featured often. Now, next week, I'm going to sit down with a guy that I first came to know and love through the pop rock band, the Connells. I don't even know how to describe them. College rock band. I don't know. The Connells' lead guitarist, George Huntley. And this is a real treat for me. Of course, I enjoy all the conversations that I have. That's no lie. But this one I was particularly looking forward to, and it doesn't disappoint. Next week, George Huntley is my guest, and I do hope you will check out that conversation as well. Well, until that next conversation, I would, as always, be so grateful if you haven't had a moment to rate and review this podcast. Please do give it 5 stars over at Apple iTunes or Spotify. You can always send us a note through the website at themicshow.com. And there's also the YouTube channel, youtube.com/atthemic with Keith. You're subscribing over there. Appreciated and helpful. Please do help this podcast grow in audience size by making more people aware that we're out here providing good conversation. And, tell somebody that you like about this podcast. Or, even someone that you don't like. Maybe after they listen, they'll appreciate this show so much that they'll actually start liking you. Hey, it's worth a shot. Anyhow, above all else, until we chat again, I do hope that you will go be free. And thank you for listening.
This has been At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production. Head to atthemicshow.com for archived episodes, sponsor information, and ways to connect.